Hey, how's it going? Vladimir Donis here. So today I want to talk about getting more done and making more sales with less effort. So essentially, sometimes when we first start in business, we go into what I call grind and or hustle mode. And that's because we're trying to figure out precisely what works. We're trying to figure out a sales process. And it's a lot of work to kind of just get things up and running and to kind of just have that continuous momentum. But at some point, that gets kind of tiring, right? The whole, let's just grind, let's just hustle, 24 hours a day, let's have all this specific overwhelm. That gets tiring at some specific time. Not too long ago, I was going through an onboarding process with someone. And specifically, one of the things that we were going to be working on is we're going to be identifying one thing to essentially reduce that person's overwhelm, to essentially look at, okay, what is it we can do to cut down the specific effort that this specific individual was doing, and thereby kind of just, raise the outcome. So the outcome is always, more sales and more income. So essentially, that was the goal. We were kind of just taking a look at this person's process and trying to determine, okay, how can we do that? How can we get more done, get more sales, and kind of just reduce that person's, effort per se. So one of the things that I always do when I'm working with people is I look at their current, sales process. So this is just hypothetically speaking, right? So let's just say that this person's sales process is they sell their specific item through a sales page. So when a specific individual is selling their specific item through a specific sales page, there's data there. What that means is that there's people that comes from somewhere, probably social media, it could be Google or wherever, and there's people that arrive at that specific page. When people arrive at that specific page, what's going to happen is that based on the specific things that the person see on that specific page, and based on the content the person saw prior to arriving to that specific page, there's some different elements that's going to that's going to determine the conversion rate of that specific page. Is going to determine, okay, how many people take action. How many people take action is going to be based on a couple of different things. It's going to be based on, okay, what are these individuals seeing prior to them arriving to that page, and is going to be based on what the information that's on that specific page. So as we're looking at that specific process, one of the things that I just recommended is that I recommended that a specific individual do what I call a two-step order form. What's a two-step order form? So instead of just asking a person for their name, email address, credit card information, asking them for everything via just one step, I said, you know what, let's just break that up a little bit and see what happens. Let's kind of just break it up. Let's have what we call a two-step order form. Step number one, let's just ask the person for their name and their email address. And then after we ask the person for their name and their email address, they have to click a button. And then after they click the button, step number two, this is where we're going to kind of just collect the credit card information. Let's just do that since you already have traffic that's coming to this specific page, you already have data. Let's just do that and kind of just see what happens. So we do that, we kind of just, he makes the changes. And then a couple of days later, we start to kind of just evaluate some of the data. It turns out that, let's just for numbers' sake, it turns out that for every 10 people that goes to that specific page, I'm just using 10 as a number. For every 10 people that begins the order process, so for every 10 people that gives them the name and the email address, only two of those specific individuals are going to the next step and completing the actual order. So what's happening is that there's something called, cart abandonment. There's like a 70+% cart abandonment rate. What that means is that some people start the process for whatever reason they were interested in, and they started to kind of just enter their information, but for whatever reason they're not completing the process. So then all of a sudden, my suggestion is that, okay, those specific individuals that's starting the order, that's not completing the order, there's a reason why they're not completing the order. Do we have a way? What happens to those specific individuals? Well, the answer was nothing. So if nothing is happening with those specific individuals that's already expressed interest and has started the order process, why don't we create automation? Why don't we create content for those specific individuals? And the content is just going to be simple. Hey, I noticed that you started the order process. I know that life gets in the way. Here's how you can go back and complete the transaction. So now all of a sudden, we have a handful of individuals that we can kind of just retarget. We can go ahead and communicate to those specific individuals, again, and tell those specific individuals, start the order process. So, from an automation standpoint, from a system standpoint, that is one of the things that, we did for this specific individuals, but it boils down to automations and systems. So a lot of time when people are looking to kind of just, cut down on the amount of work that they do. So when people are looking to kind of just do less and kind of just get more results, a lot of times implementing, systems and then having follow-up systems and then having automation those things will 100% play to your favor, because when those things play to your favor, you're kind of out of it. So let's just say, we decided to kind of just create five email follow-up for people who started the order process but didn't finish the order process. If we send those people 5 emails over the course of 5 days, what's going to happen is that from a conversion standpoint, a good number of those specific individuals are going to go back and complete the order process. So now all of a sudden, that's already in place. You have traffic that's already going to the page, and voila, all of a sudden this specific individual is going to be able to make more sales because we're leveraging systems. So a lot of it boils down to what happens when. I did a video not too long ago, and I talked about what happens when. So that's a big part of being able to kind of just do less. Asking yourself, okay, if someone is starting whatever process it is, what happens if someone, arrives to a specific point of your sales process and they don't take action? What automations do you have in place? What email sequences do you have in place? Because when you start to kind of just incorporate those specific things into your specific business, you're going to work a lot less, and you're going to be able to kind of just make a lot more. So systems, automations, those things are extremely important. If you need help with this type of stuff, I recently, I'm in the launch version of a course where we talk about Facebook ads, we talk about email sequences, we talk about automation, we talk about systems, we talk about all of those specific things. At this current time, there's a special price that's available for you to go ahead and join that specific program. There's going to be a link somewhere on this specific page. You can go ahead and click on that specific link, and then what link is going to allow you to do is going to take you to a page and it's going to give you the details and tell you and show you how you can join that specific program. We're going to talk about Facebook ads, that's a big part of it, emails, automation. We're going to talk about pretty much how you can kind of just automate your process so that way you can do a lot less and then accomplish a lot more with a lot less effort. Or you can go to VladimirMarketing.com. If you go to VladimirMarketing.com, you can get details that way, as well. So, that's my time. This does it for this specific episode, and I'll see you in the next episode.